Welcome everyone. Today we're celebrating actually today. It is our 10th spotlight session, and I'm really excited to be able to actually introduce Craig Manson. First of all, Craig, thanks for joining us today, mate.
Thanks, Martin. It's great to be here, and thanks for being your 10th spotlight session. It's exciting.
Yeah, no, and it would be remiss of me if I didn't say congratulations on the All Blacks win yesterday.
Yeah, mate, I think the score did us proud, so we'll move on, shall we?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I actually appreciate it. So Craig joins us. Craig and I have actually known each other for probably just over 12 months, Craig, we first met.
Yep.
And every time I get together, we have coffees. It's enlightening, it's engaging, it's upbeat. And I was really excited to be able to invite Craig along today. So Craig's actually a professional board director, an advisory board, but really specializing in the space that we're talking about, not just the strategy and advisory side of organizations, but technology. That's where Craig's specialty is. So, mate, thank you again for joining us. And actually, I would love for you to tell the audience of where you're based, because not only are you looking relaxed and upbeat where you are, but you actually do live in one of the most beautiful parts of the world as well.
Yeah, I live in a place called Sunshine Beach, which is close to a little town called Noosa in Queensland, and I think it's paradise. We spent 2 years trying to find the perfect place to live, and we stumbled upon this, and we've never left. So very lucky, very fortunate.
Don't leave, mate, because I still want to come for more coffees. So
you're always welcome.
I love visiting you, and I'm looking forward to having 3 weeks up there at Christmas. So I look forward to seeing you then as well. So, mate, let's talk, because you and I have hit on multiple levels, and we have actually worked directly together of what the team are doing at Earth Tech as well. And I got to see you firsthand in action, and you're probably one of the most impressive leaders and strategic minds that I've actually worked with. You really took hold of that group, and it was a very experienced group, and you're able to take. You talk passionately about bringing strategy to life,
yep.
and I'd love you to share that. When you say that, what do you mean?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love strategy. I think strategy is so important. I guess my view on strategy is taking a bet on the future, then working out how to get there better and faster than anybody else. And it's about competing to be unique. So strategy to me is foundation. You have to have it. Every business has to have it. Every human has to have it. I'm sure we've all got our own strategies. But for me, it's easy to create strategy, and it's really hard to bring it to life. And implementing great strategy is so difficult to do, and it is fundamental for success. The most successful teams I've ever been involved in have had a pretty simple strategy, but we've executed it brilliantly well. And I think that really is the strength of organizations. What makes humans flourish in an organization, because I'm really passionate about that. It helps people grow, and I think it's incredibly important. And without it, you move around a bit, and not in a positive way. So I think implementing is key critical.
Yeah, straight up, we talk a lot about giving strategy a heartbeat.
Yep.
Because it is a future statement, right? It is saying, but then we break it down into the things we said we needed to do. Bringing those two things together is not always easy.
I agree, and look, it's about hearts and minds. Everything in life and business is about winning hearts and minds, and strategy will win the mind, but it's the implementation, the execution that will deliver the heart. And Dan Pink talks about autonomy, purpose, and mastery, right? And that's all about heart. So it's definitely about bringing it to life, and it's what drives organizations. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. I love you touched on something then, purpose.
Yep.
And we talked about purpose and value, right? We're big on clarity of purpose and ensuring that everyone's is very, very clear on what's expected of them. Yep. Super important. But then you talked about unified goals. Yep. And I loved that, right? Because it's okay to have the business plan, but unless you break it down, not just what you have to do, but we've all got to be aligned to the same thing.
Yep.
Or small goals, medium goals, big goals. But can you share that with the way you think about those three elements?
Yeah, look, and so shared purpose, common values, unified goals, super critical. And for me, it's about having all three. And we all spend a lot of time talking about purpose. How many hours we spend wordsmithing mission statements and purpose statements, and we've all seen Simon Sinek's great stuff on why, and that's fantastic. And then we've got the values that we've got in common around these are the behaviours we'll have as an organisation, and that's great. That's normally where the conversation stops.
Yeah.
But I really believe, again, teams that I've been involved with that are incredibly high performing teams and great people, it's about having unified goals. It's the thing that drives us forward together. We've got one or two key goals we have to achieve, and then we really break it down and understand what's each individual's role in achieving those goals. And everybody in every organization can go towards the goals. I've had many a time where, we've had goals around growth of organizations. I work a lot with growth-oriented organizations. And a lot of people in the organization go, I can't affect growth. I'm not a salesperson, or I'm not involved in marketing, I'm not customer facing. And even that you can break down and talk about the quality of the work you deliver every day, how you actually go about thinking and putting yourself in the customer's shoes, going the extra mile. There are things you can do inside an organization, and you can actually even get people on the factory floor absolutely aligned to unified goals. And it makes such a difference in terms of strategy execution, because everyone can play a role.
Yeah, I've lived it and breathed it when I was at Concur.
Yeah.
It's great to have good leaders with clarity and they have purpose. It's great for them to be able to articulate it, but still, that's not enough.
Correct.
Right? And this is where I'm sort of going with a lot of leaders right now. It's okay to be at the front of the room, but how do you motivate people when you're not in the room?
Yep.
Right? And we're in classic times where we're just not in the room.
Yeah.
So, and I think your unified goals model is actually the piece of magic. That if everyone understands that everyone's doing the same, waking up to that same outcome, but we know our role in to achieve it. If I talk to somebody in a completely cross-functional group or a different, everyone's sort of really, their energy is towards the same thing.
Yep, correct.
It's a snowball effect. And I sort of look at leaders like you, because your clarity in that is perfect, but I haven't really anyone talk about unified goals before.
Okay.
It was really, when you triggered me when you said it, because it's such a powerful thing that once you get that, it can lead people down a path without leaders having to be in the room. Right. Yep. So everyone is a leader in that.
Correct. What it does, it's a beautiful point you make, Martin, because everyone becomes a leader, because you can lead the way you need to lead in the part of the organization that you're in. And everyone in the organization can actually contribute. And I think that's super important. There's a little tool that I've used over the last few years. It comes from Japanese agile thinking. It's called a Kanban. And that's a really nice little tool, how it takes a big unified goal for an organization and it breaks it down into 6 monthly, quarterly, and monthly chunks. And so people know exactly the actions they need to take to deliver to the bigger, massive goals for the organization and their role in doing it. It's one of the things I love about stratapp. You actually allow people to do that. And I think it's a critical part of the secret sauce of stratapp and how it works.
Yeah, it's sort of, you gave me a little bit of goosebumps when you said that around secret sauce, because when something has its own life, but the person who is involved in it can do it in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah.
That to me is secret sauce.
Yeah.
Right. So they can work in the way that they want, but they just know the clarity behind what it is they have to get, where they have to go, but what are the things they have to get there. Love it.
Mate, exactly right. I mean, I had a boss of mine in my early years, and he had this beautiful saying. He said, leaders are normally pretty good at painting a picture, the strategy, but the best leaders, they paint a picture, but they leave a space for every individual in the organization to paint themselves into that picture.
Yeah, love it.
And so it's just taking that extra step where I'll leave the space for you to paint yourself in the picture of where we're going. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with these tools.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And the other thing too, because you and I do talk a lot of strategy, and your mind is incredible. You can go through a lot of things very quickly and then just be very crisp on the advice that you have. And I personally love it. So thank you. But you also talked about strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And the magic saying. So talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, Drucker's probably a bit old now, and we're still quoting an old fella, but nothing wrong with that. But it's true. Culture does eat strategy for breakfast. And even Sun Tzu in The Art of War, I think he said, poor strategy with great execution always triumphs over great strategy with poor execution. And it's absolutely true. But it's the culture. It's about people being able to take responsibility, having that mastery and autonomy and purpose to do what they need to do, which actually brings strategy to life. Yes. So it's about actually sharing it across the organization. As we said earlier, it's about being able to paint yourself in the strategic picture. And I think that's the thing that really works. And yeah, I love that Drucker quote, because culture wins every time, and it beats strategy every single time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can be lazy with your strategy, don't get me wrong. It means you've got to be mighty fine with your strategy, but your execution, your delivery has to be better.
Well, even I think you and I had a bit of a conversation when I met with you last. Even the COVID period has, and did a great interview with Barry Paget, and he said, all COVID did was accelerate things.
Yep.
But it was always going to get to this anyway, and I'm a massive believer of that.
Yeah,
the idea of us working remote and us actually working in a disparate way, like you call it disparate because it's so dispersed and it's so remote, and it's just not traditional how people think they should be working.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the future anyway. So
it's
perfectly designed for it. Let me ask you this question: is if you're advising a team, right? And you talked about stratapp, secret sauce, Kanban, these they're great structures that have helped organizations and teams win.
Yep.
If you're a team member in a team and you're handed stratapp, for example, what's your advice to them in relation to change and adoption and taking ownership of that tool to help them get to where they need to be on a professional level?
Well, there's a whole lot of elements to that. As you're saying, mine was kind of thinking there's multiple elements to that to answer that question. I think the first thing for me is about people taking ownership. Viktor Frankl's got a great saying, between stimulus and response is a space, and that space is your choice to be the human you want to be. Mm. So what human do you want to be? And what are you going to take from this beautiful gift you've been given as a tool? And how are you going to use it to actually make your life better and make your work better and contribute? So there's a real thing around growth mindset. That's I guess the first point I'd really make. And the second point is, if you're given some tools and everyone else is using them, how can you contribute more greatly to your cohort? Mm-hmm. And actually make a greater contribution by using those tools. Yeah. And I guess the third element is, I'm pretty competitive, and I think most people are. And if you've got any competitive streak inside you, you want to get the best tools to take you as far as you can, as quickly as you can. Yeah. And the tools that we've been talking about today really enable that. And stratapp's a really important part of actually, you say, you know what, I'll take the tools forward to make me better. We were talking before the call about rugby, a bit of a favourite topic of ours. And it's fascinating, is it, that 2 weeks ago, the All Blacks played the Wallabies and it was a draw, and Australia felt like it was a win, and it felt like there was a death in the family back in New Zealand. That's a different approach, the growth mindset. And I think, if you've got that growth mindset and you take those tools, you'll do great things with them. Yeah. I think it's a really important point. Yeah, and it's interesting. We're talking a lot about strategy, culture, eating strategy, all this sort of stuff, but tactical, the way I sort of see the world and the space moving, tactical behavior when you buy technology. So if the constant framework, well, we need a technology to solve this, well, we need a technology to solve that. And what I've seen now across the universe in relation to how many tactical tools we have bought, but none of it is tied to the strategy. Yeah. And it amazes me that we built and bought so much of this technology, but now I think we've got an opportunity to rethink it and say, you know what, our strategy is really the center of everything we do, whether it's BAU, business as usual, and tactical versus strategic. Everything should be living in one place. Yeah, and I think a really big point of difference on that topic, Man, is that a lot of people buy technology, don't link it to strategy, but they also only let a few people use it. Right? And if you're going to, all this whole conversation we've just had is about getting the organization behind strategy. So how can you do that if you've only got an elite few people using the tool? So why wouldn't you open the tool to everybody? And I think that's a really important piece. It's one of the things I love about stratapp. Everyone can use it. Yeah, no, I love that. And own it. Yep. Which is a big piece of what you and I talk about all the time. Yep. So mate, I really appreciate you joining. You and I could talk for another hour, easily an hour and a half. But I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your insights and knowledge. And I definitely encourage the audience to follow Craig, because I think what you're doing, and I sat down with one of your CEOs that you're working with at the moment, actually the other day, and it was by chance we met that we'd
both knew you, and we're both massive admirers of your work. And I personally would just like to say thank you very much for joining us and also investing the time with me as you do as well.
Mark, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we'll have those long conversations over the next cup of coffee in Sunshine Beach. But I just love contributing, and I love what you guys are doing. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cool. See you, man.